All right, all you devils out there, how you doing? Happy Friday. Here we are, 19th of June, kind of middle of the day here. So, of course, on a Friday, we're going to get an update here on this count in Bitcoin. This continues to be my primary. It's not the most popular count, but I'm sticking with it until it's invalidated. And there's right now, of course, this section here is getting a little wonky. I think we can stay with this here, barring, well, really this area down here. So we came down, we tested it. So last week we had members, you'll recognize here, we had almost to the tick, just a good looking entry, but we've had a little push and retrace here. So this area where we have this high volume node, that really needs to hold if we're going to bounce here a little bit. It's very well teed up here for this to finish up here. The question is, what are we finishing? Because there's Elliotticians are going to differ on how to count this here. My count is, well, it's not without its unusual components to it. It all comes down to this section here, right? And I've been through it 15 times. See, even if you were thinking it was a 5-3-5-3-5 diagonal, right? And if you're thinking, okay, well, somehow I'm digging 5 out of that, then I get my impulse. This is problematic even as a 2 because it sure looks like a 5, and then you were finishing here. Well, then you'd have an incredibly shallow 2. But you could probably, and this if this breaks up, if we start to fall down, you might be able to. You might be back here looking at this way. 1, 2. This is because of the impulse that's in it. 3, running flat into the 4, and you finish the 5 here. Right? That's how you just looking at it. You want to put the 1 here, but boy, is this you can't do it and stay disciplined with rule set here. But the big problem here being this overlap, and then it's almost impossible to dig a 5 out of this. I mean, I've been down to the 5 minute. It's really tough to get that. I mean, really, if anything, it looks like a 3. So it's almost a stretch to even call it a 1. I mean, I even looked at the possibility here that this was a truncated 5 as part of this section. This is really difficult to get any conviction into account. So what do? Well, see, I'm working this as a 1-2-1-2. Let's get this back where we have it here. So 1-2-1-2-1-2. Right? You don't want to do that, but this is so problematic here in terms of getting a reasonable count on it. You have to sort of back out what can I see with conviction. Right? We went through this last week. I can see the impulse here. I can clearly see the impulse here. I get the impulse here. I get the impulse here. Again, I try and give you guys the best count I can possibly put in front of you. Now, of course, it's no secret here that I'm a long-term bull, so I'm not unaware that bullish bias can be influencing my count. So, bears, spare me the right. I understand, right? My bias here has me leaning into a bullish count here. That said, until we invalidate this count, I don't see a reason not to stick with it until something happens here to where I can no longer keep the 4 here and I have to put at this degree. Well, we already got a couple of things that are well, let's call them interesting here. So now I have a channel on this. Now this is not traditional Elliott channeling, but it's certainly a channel that's using the market's pivots here. So I'm just the start of the proposed one here in this pivot. Now, that would not be how you would normally do it. If we think this is the 4 at this degree, well, you'd be drawing the channel a bit differently. You'd be pulling from the 2 to the 4, and then we'd put it on the 3, and then you'd be projecting up here on the assumption that this was going to complete an impulse in this fashion here. So this would be the 4, and we're going up for the 5, so you'd get something. If I pull it down here, it can be helpful to kind of look at the structure of it. So yeah, it's again, it's the beginning of all of this is where all the problem is, right? Of the challenge, I should say it that way, in terms of getting any clarity on the count. The structure here is it's not horrible, right? This being short, sharp, this taking a little bit of time, and of course, if it's a running flat, you know, which potentially could end up being, I think this count is valid. Now, this whole area here, if we break this, if we start to come down here and this, we break here and we do, even if we got a little push here, we start to come down. Now this count's going to start to fall apart. So then you'd be back here. You'd be likely putting the 3 over here, putting the 5 here, the 4 probably here, and then you're back to where we started, which is sort of that internal. Well, let's see if I can do this. There we go. You'd be back to revisiting this on the idea that something internal has completed here. Because the whole thing, right? If we look at it from the low to the top here, you wanna complete the count there, right? And have this be the start of the correction. So whether this is, it remains to be seen. That would make more sense, right? And I can look at this just as you all can and say, well, I want to label it that way. But if I'm a stickler for the rule set here, you can't. You have to compromise somewhere. So until we get clarity in this section, I think you have to be cautiously optimistic here about an additional leg here taking us up here to complete an impulse, whether it's the smaller one or the bigger one. I think you can hold on to that unless we break this huge volume node here breaks, and we get into where I've described this before, where we have kind of an air pocket here. Yeah, there's been some trading here, but if this is going to fall, you can just kind of looking at the volume profile, this would be a logical place where you might anticipate that, and then just, you know, would that make sense? Well, here we'd be coming down here to catch the 50 and the 618. So if it's coming down, we're talking 62 to 72 in that range. If this is going to end up correcting in this fashion, where we're going to complete it one way or another here, and the 3 is going to bring us down here, and then potentially now we're off to challenge. Well, at least off to challenge 11, 12, 13, 14, the prior high back one pivot. It's tricky, right? Bitcoin always a challenge, but I'm gonna take this one off here and let's just visit this count as we have it now. So again, this is, you could think of this as just as a trend line. So let's see, do I have this thing locked? Yeah, I think I do. So you might think of it this way. Okay, so before you start calling it a channel, well, it's just a trend line, pivot to pivot. But if I bring it up here now, and I'm going to connect the pivots here. So I'm going to connect, if I get it. Here, let's do it this way. Let's go back. There we go. Okay, so I'm connecting the one, well, this pivot, the initial one, with the proposed 3 here, right? That pivot. So connecting these, again, this is it. Now I'm outside of traditional Elliott channeling, right? Duly noted. But note this here. So as you've often seen me do this, if I clone this, let's see if I can get it hot here, and let's clone it. And let's just, I'm just extending the channel. If I come out here with that channel and just lay it on top here, well, I got a pretty good, it's just a couple of ticks shy here. I'm to the tick here on the center line here. I'm catching all of this. So I've got a nice framing of the market here in this atypical non-Elliott channeling. Channel's a channel, but this is not typical Elliott channeling to define that count, all within that existing channel. Now, if we go out the channel, if we expand the channel by 0.5 here, now I get the entire thing contained. So it re-emphasizes the importance of this pivot, holding within this channel. So if we're in the process of, then you can make a case for a little impulse here. If this is the 1 and the 2 setting in here, you can see how this could come up here. We're going to need an impulse, of course. Well, pardon me, wouldn't need to be an impulse, but we're going to need to be a 5 to finish the 5th here of what I'm proposing will be the 3 relative to the larger degree. Now, the other thing that has you second guessing this, well, I should say it has me second guessing this count. If this is the 1 and that's my 2, well, here's the 2618, which would be we get through it a bit, but boy, that would just be ideal for the 3 at this degree. So you want to put the 3 here, but again, if you're disciplined about the count structure and the subdivision, it doesn't quite work, right? And again, it all comes back to the problems down at the start of this entire move. All right, so that said, I think you can stay bullish here, but if I'm long, right? So we had the entry here right as I framed it out last week. We just right off of this, I'd keep my stop. I'd be, a couple of ticks underneath this. If you want to give it maximum room, I sure wouldn't go below that, right? Or even this, so you've got a little high volume node here that's tied to this little pause. Let's just look here. Yeah, it looks like it's, if I'm pulling this left here, there's some of this influence here. So we have just enough here to give us that high volume node right here. So we're here on Binance, that's 83.50. I wouldn't want to care. I wouldn't want to take the drawdown if we're going deeper. I personally, right? Again, I'm a bull as can be, but I wouldn't if for a trade. Remember, I always make the distinction between your long-term holding Bitcoin and your trading Bitcoin. So if this is your trading Bitcoin, I would not carry the drawdown. Oh shit, we could go down to, you know, what did I just say, 62 to 72. Why? If I'm up here at 89, 9,000, do I want to take that drawdown? I'd rather just get me out. I'll take a small loser here and reevaluate when I see what kind of shape. If we're going to do this in a nice 3, well, then I'm all over this. But don't need to go there just yet. So so since we've been over and the market hasn't moved much, let me get that off. I know that's annoying. I mean, you know, you can look at it this way, right? So just the frame here of all of this volume, we're just stuck, right? Until we get out of this range, hard to have much conviction beyond whatever you have a primary and an alternate. I'm kind of walking you through both of mine here. Either the bigger 3 is here and we're looking for the 4 a bit deeper here, because remember, we'd have a long way to go before we'd be violating the 1 pivot here, right? So if we're going down that low, something else is happening. So I think we can hold on to this for the idea that this has yet one more kick here to get that 5, which would complete the 3 at this degree, and then you're looking for this support here that's being established. Right now, some will tell you all that's happening here is distribution before we head down, but we certainly have a lot of volume going on here. So traders, buyers and sellers, buyers, sellers, back and forth, creating all of this content here. So if we're going to come back down into the 4, you'd be looking for something like that before we go up again, right? So all of this hopefully would become the support. Remains to be seen. But that's how for lack of a better way to describe it, this is my primary, so I'm just going to hold this, and I would be quick to get out if we start to break here. As I just said, this 82 level, I'd be out below that. Now, let's go look at the just the internal here. We'll go down to let's go to a 30-minute. Okay, so this has gotten a little sloppy here. So it looks like you might have to work this as a WXY. So this, of course, is, you know, what do you do with that wick, right? So you can probably, well, it's hard to dig a 5 out of it. So you could work it as an ABC, right? The C is just a, you know, it's just a free fall, right? So not much you can do with it. So you got to call it something. Well, then we get the 3 legs here with as a contender for the X, and then now look, it looks like you've had another. Well, this was technical, so from the pivot, I'm sure members, you've all done this, right? So we get this here, so we go 50, then it looks like it's a few, just a few dollars shy of the algo target where we get the pivot. So, and then we come off of that with an impulse, right? So we get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if we're coming back the other direction, what do? Right to the golden zone, right? I think, was that even? Oh, that was this week. I think it wasn't quite there last weekend. I think this is the one we looked at here where we went damn near to the tick. Now taking the whole thing, golden zone, right? That should surprise no one. I'm sure you've all done this. So if that's a 1, then we're looking for this to trade as a 1, 2. Well, this is already a little shaky. So 1, 2-ish, right? 3, 4, 5. Let's get that up a degree. Micro, let's go to, what have we not used here? Let's go to light blue here. So 1, looking for the 2 here. So just standard ops, right? Same thing we do every time, right? Never changes. Same thing, always the same thing. That's the advantage. So anywhere and down here, right? So looking, if we're going to come down a little bit further here, I'd prefer to not have it take that pivot out, right? If we can come down, if we're going to retrace and be a little soft, what's the market doing now? Well, Dow's now down a couple hundred. So if it's going to be kind of a risk off going into the weekend, I'd prefer to not see this golden zone break. Certainly, right? The count is already getting a little iffy right now. You're going to have to do another. Is this going to be A, B, C, X? Are you going to have to do a W, X, Y here to give you a 2? You've got kind of interesting. You've got similar structure on a smaller degree here happening, but anywhere in this zone, let's call it 92.75 to 91.85. There's an opportunity here for a low risk trade. Now, you don't need to give it that much room. I'd keep it. I've shown you guys this many times here. I'll often use the 707, so just a couple. So that way I'm giving it a little cushion in case there's a pump wick. They're jamming people who know about the golden zone. I'd give that a little bit of room, just a few underneath the 707. That's typically where I put my stop if I'm trading off of a golden zone. It's giving it a little breathing room, a little spike wick kind of FU from traders. Just to be sure you're giving that just a little room. I don't think you need to go below the 706 or 786. I'd keep it down right here, maybe between the two. Right, so if that comes down, I'll take the small loser and then just get out. I'd rather be out than just live with that drawdown and go, oh shit, right? I made a mistake, right? Remember, if you don't do it, so if it starts coming down, you're like, oh, I'm going to move the stop a little bit. I'm going to move it a little further. Well, I know it's going to. Right, that's that, and then now you're kicking yourself, right? So that cycle of negative psychology kicks in. You're like, what? Oh, I'm so dumb. Why didn't I? What? Right? You want to try and avoid that as much as possible, because if you do it, the next time you've got to pull the trigger and the market's coming down. Remember, we're always buying when the market's going down and selling when the market's going up. It's counterintuitive. It's hard to do it. The emotions in your psyche say, I'm like, shit, I can't buy it. It's going down. I can't sell it. It's going up. Yeah, that's what makes this challenging, right? If it were easy, everybody'd be rich. It's the trade you're afraid of. Often is the best one, right? When you're a little, well, you think of it that way. If you're a little uncomfortable, do I want to risk that? If you're just checking yourself, you're going back through your trade plan. Okay, where am I at? What's the risk? How's that going to affect my account? All right, I'm a little nervous about it. That's almost always the better trade than well, I know clearly where this is going. This is going to be easy. Click, click, buy, sell, whatever it may be. When you're that confident in it, usually the market will slap you just to be sure you don't get overconfident. The one that you're scared to death to take, usually the best looking trade, right? Because the market's coming down or the market's going up. All right, so with that said here, I think you've got this range here for potential entry, but again, we're not swinging for the fence here. We're just looking for this fifth to complete. Let's go back out to an hourly. If there's anything else here really to add, not much else to do here. Again, it's not a clear, clean count. This is a little iffy. What is this? It's hard. The 5 going up clean. This. Well, you can look in there and say, well, if we just done an ABC, right, this would have been easy. Now with the new pivot low here, you're a little unsure, right? That's all you can say here. It's a little iffy, right? Now we can anticipate perhaps some volatility over the weekend, perhaps, right? Bitcoin's prone to that, but really we've just been going sideways for quite some time. So until we break out, well, let's go back to a 3. Until we break out of this box that we've been in. Well, you could almost draw it this way. You could take this. So here's the box that we're in, right? And I'm just using this pivot that's all around with this volume. Until we break out of this box, it's really anyone's guess here as to which way we resolve out of this. Now that said, if indeed we've completed something here, something internally has completed here because of the 5 here, higher probability that we completed something at some degree here on this pivot. Now, as we correct that, now we stay internal. Well, let's get this off here. We're still internal. This is still internal to this pivot. Now, deep, right? So it's again, I wouldn't be overly aggressive here because of the uncertainty, but I certainly think there's a nice little trade there where, shit, what are we looking at here? Let me clean this up a little bit. So if you're a buyer down here, we'll wrap it up here. You're going for that. Stop under the 707. What do you got there? There's 14 to 1. Let's see. Let's put the whole thing back together again. Give me a sec here. We can get an actual. So let's get our 707 on that. So that's about. Bring it up a hair. All right. So with that as our target, this holds as the 4. It's 20 to 1. Now, is he going to do that by Monday? Yeah. Well, shit, with Bitcoin, you never know. But I mean, certainly the risk reward is attractive, right? It's hard not to like that at 20 to 1. Now, these kind of trades where you've got that small of a risk, you know, the majority of the time that you're not going to realize a 21 trade there, right? Either you're going to get stopped out here. This is going to go down. You're going to take that small loser. But what I'm trying to get to is it doesn't take many of these, right, to offset all the little losers, which is the whole idea, right? So we've mentioned a couple of times we're doing this survey to members over the weekend. And, kind of going through, looking for the information, pros, cons, where are your challenges? We were having this conversation on the team yesterday. It's almost, well, I'd say 95% of the time, the challenge is always money management. Is it rarely an inability to analyze the market, right? I mean, we Elliott, some will tell you that you're just complicating the hell out of it, right? That you could just work with a few levels and let's watch the RSI and okay, if it gets down here, I'm a buyer and I can see that I've got structure here, I've got resistance here. You can simplify this. So all of this counting and this, just back and forth, is it an ABC, WXY? Right? That's certainly it's complicating the process. So either you're drawn to that the attempt to be that precise, which is really what we're trying to do, is to be ultra precise. I mean, look. I mean, I'm putting together a 20 to 1 trade here, but the risk is so small, so you're going to get stopped out 7 out of 10 times with a stop that tight. So first thing you got to recognize right off the bat, you got to be okay with that. Can you sustain, right? Look here. So can you withstand 7 losers in a row? Or I mean, that's likely. That's often a real problem with people. So they say, fuck man, six stops in a row. Yeah, they're small, but I keep being wrong. And that's always the conundrum where your ego gets involved, right? Because you want to be right. You think, I got it, I see it, okay, I got it. But on the 7th time, right, can you pull the trigger the same way? It's still 20 to 1. I mean, you've taken those small losers, you're like, it gets harder and harder. And this is what makes trading so hard. Because the 7th time or the 8th time, after you've taken all those losers in a row, you'll hesitate. You won't do it the same way you did on 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so what you'll wait for is for the market to confirm. So now the market's taking off. You're like, okay, well now what are you doing, right? So now you're buying when the market's going up, right? Well here, if you break that pivot, I want to wait. I want to wait until it takes out that pivot, right? Well now you're buying into an external retracement, right? You missed the opportunity to buy the internal retracement. That's what we're always trying to do. Get the internal retracement and watch it go external. That's the name of the game. Because otherwise, where's your stop, right? If you wait, I'm going to wait till it breaks that 1. Okay, well now where's your stop? Are you down here, right? We don't have a 20 to 1 anymore. And if it were to break that and then come down this low, do you think are you still going up? Well, you could, right? So it could be, again, it could be an expanded B wave, something funky's happening here. But my point being is you don't want to miss the opportunity to buy the internal retracement, much higher risk. And again, it's not that this couldn't here and I'm taking the breakout and off it goes. That's much more effective in equities than it is in crypto or futures or FX. The breakout plays much better in equities. Right. For Bitcoin, futures, FX, you want the internal to go external. You want to buy it while it's internal. Well, in this case, if in a buy. Or you want to sell it. Here's another example, right? We want to sell it when it's internal to the swing to get the external. That's the name of the game. If you just were to focus on that, do you see the trade-off here? If you're trading the internal, looking for the external, the stop will always be smaller than if you wait for the I'm waiting till that breaks, right? When it breaks that pivot, then I'm long. Well, again, just look, where's your stop? Oh, I'm just going to trade 2% of my account, as I've said this before. Well, then you're just trading your wallet. You're not trading the market. You want to be able to trade both at the same time. Okay, so if it's coming down and I know I'm only going to risk 2% of my account or 3% or whatever your number is, okay, well, I can do that down here when it's coming down. I can be very specific about it. Okay, all right, I know here, if I'm buying it here at 2% of my account, whatever it may be, I'm out here. Okay, I'm out here, right? So I live to trade another day. That's the way you want to think of it, right? So again, if this is not gonna happen 7 out of 10 times, it's live to trade another day, right? I'll take the small losers. Nobody likes it. I don't like it. After 25 years, I still get pissed off when I get stopped out. At some level, right? Depends how much the risk is, right? Because I want to be right, just like you do. It's just human nature. It's just human nature. Right? That's all. Of course, we want to be right. You calculate it here, internalize, but you have to try and disconnect from it the best that you can. You want to try and disconnect from the impact on your account, right? So yeah, your ego is going to be a little bruised. Ah, fuck, I was wrong. Shit. Yeah, I understand. I've been living with that for 25 years. But it's trying to disconnect from, okay, the impact to my account. Well, I know I can afford to take the 2% hit here. I can afford it. Now, how many times in a row can you afford it, right? That then it's a question of account size. And so, how many times can you do that? Well, maybe you only want to take 1% here. If you're trading Bitcoin with an account size less than 5K, right? So maybe you're only a 1%er, all right? No problem, right? Live to trade another day. Because one of these times, right, if you can stay consistent and you buy that golden zone and it starts to go and you're buying the internal retracement that goes external, you're going to hit that. And that's going to compensate you for all those times that you took the little one. Little loser, God damn it, little loser, damn it, little loser, damn it. I've lived it. And it's not just, just takes one, right? It's the discipline to continue to maintain the same approach. I buy internal to go external. Not, let's try something else. Well, let's maybe the moving averages weren't right here. So then I'm going to try. That's what most people do. That's as common as day to night. It's so common. I mean, that we have a business because of that, because people jump around. They're like, that didn't work. That didn't work. Well, I took 3 losers in a row there. Well, let me try. I read something about a moving average crossover here. It's supposed to be good. Oh, well, I read something about XYZ, right? So you got to decide what type of trader you are. I am a retracement trader, and I ended up there because I tried everything else. So as a retracement trader, the entire function of everything we're trying to do, everything we're trying to teach you is as simple as that. Buy the internal to go external. Sell the internal to go external, right? Well, that's all this is, right? That's what this is. It's buying the internal to go external. Here we're going here, we're going here, we're going here. All right, let's do it this way. That's the name of the game, right there. Okay, so here I got 5-1. Second target, I got 7-1. If I get a wave 3, I got 10-1. Okay, let's just look at that if I wait for the breakout. If I wait for the breakout, let's see if I can do it this way. All right, now I'm going first target here, right? I don't even have 1-1. All right, I'm waiting for the external, right? So, I was taught that if I just wait for the break of that pivot here, well, now it's a breakout. Jesus, more money lost by... Well, let me rephrase that. I have seen, and I myself have lost more money on breakout trades than any other trade I've ever taken. Any other, right? Why? Because market makers, other traders, experienced traders know that often, I don't mean to offend anyone here. Often the new trader is a breakout trader because they've read that in a book somewhere. Oh, I'm going to wait for the breakout. Okay, well, look at your risk reward here, right? It's 0-1. Let's say I get second target here. Oh, I barely, if I get that just right and I get it to the tick, I got 3.3-1. If I get a wave 3 here, well, I've got 5-1. Well, it was 10-1 as a retracement trader. Lower risk, higher return. Why would you do anything else? Seriously, I mean, I guess it's a rhetorical question. I mean, why would, if the name of the game, or as I was just saying before, is always in the problems, right? Thousands of members have come through Trade Devils. It's always about money management. Well, sure, some of them are still learning the analysis side. That's the fun part. That's solving the puzzle. Everybody loves the analysis. This is the shit. This is the dirty work. The willingness to take the stop. That's what makes it hard. Because I'm gonna give it a little. I've done it. I've done it so many times. Right? I promise. I'm not here. I'm trying to help you. Because I've done this 1,000 times. I've done that. Oh, I know I'm right. I know I'm right. Live to trade another day. Right? Take the little hit. Because one of these times you're going to get your 10 to 1. Then all those little losers, you'll forget all of them. And what you'll remember is that one. Man, I nailed that one. I got a 10 to 1 on that. How many times did it take you? Well, 5 little losers before, but my net P&L had a good run, right? Or maybe you get a runner, right? All right, guys, there you go. That's about everything I can offer to you here. I kind of went off on a tangent here because this is still a little bit of hurry up and wait here. This has got to resolve. We got to get some clarity here. Right now, all I can see is, well, I have a trade setting up. I have my internal. Am I going to get an external? Well, if not, I'll take the little loser. Live to trade another day. All right, guys, have a great weekend. And members, we'll be in touch with you about our survey and all that content stuff. Oh, okay, guys, talk to you later.